The movie I chose for this week's review is the 90s horror film called Brainscan, which stars Terminator 2's Edward Furlong and the legendary Frank Langella.
Pardon me if you can. Movie reviews.
Michael Brown, played by Edward Furlong, is an only child whose mother died in a car crash. His father is always away working, and Michael spends his time watching violent horror movies and playing video games. He purchases a new interactive virtual reality video game, said to be the most terrifying experience ever. In the video game, Michael's character commits a very realistic murder. It is everything the game advertisement said it would be. But the next day on the news, there is a report on a gruesome murder that exactly matches the way it was depicted in the video game. Did Michael commit the murder, or is there something even more sinister going on? The director of Brainscan is John Flynn, who also directed one of the great action revenge films of all time called Rolling Thunder. In an interview I found online, it is clear that he doesn't have very positive things to say about Brainscan, although he really likes Frank Langella's take on the detective, and in particular the character of the trickster, played by an actor called T. Ryder Smith. Brainscan reeks of 90s paranoia, of violence and video games, and of course what that means to the youth growing up with such extreme violence in their technology and of course their everyday entertainment. The movie was written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote one of my favourite films of all time, Seven. He also went on to write Sleepy Hollow, directed by Tim Burton, and of course 8mm. I really like the opening of this movie, where it shows a dreamlike car crash that sets up the character of Michael. Michael has lost his mother in a violent car crash that haunts him. His father is away all the time for work. He is a lonely child and loses himself in the modern technology of what an upper middle class teenager can gloriously afford. Michael is a really spoilt kid, the finest entertainment setup that even puts to shame the modern entertainment setups of 2016. He's got a video camera, a Siri-like system on what I'm assuming is the top-of-the-line computer of the day, a crazy hi-fi setup with all kinds of CDs, and believe me kids, CDs were as expensive as hell in the 90s. Michael plays his music loud, watches any violent program or plays any video game he wants to as he is not supervised. And he also spends his time spying on his attractive young neighbour who he has a huge crush on, played by Amy Hargreaves. Despite all these great things that he owns, there is a sense of emptiness to his life. And if he can't find it in love, he will find it in entertainment and technology. And that's what the character, the trickster, embodies. He embodies this darker and lonely side of Michael that hungers for attention. A demonic manifestation of Michael's loss, anger, and inadequacy. The best part of the movie is the character of the trickster, played by T. Ryder Smith, seemingly a demon who encourages Michael to play the video game. That said, this film Brainscan is so boring. While the beginning has really strong points, there's a very violent murder at the beginning. There's a very good dreamlike sequence of the car crash, which I really liked. And there's a lot of questions that it raises, like, which reality are we in? Are we still in the video game? Is Michael really responsible? Like, what's actually happened? Like, you're questioning some certain scenes, but don't expect anything as deep as David Cronenberg's Existence. Like, this movie just keeps going back and forth whether Michael should play the video game or not. Like, the trickster keeps going. I think there's like a point in the film where he holds up 4 fingers saying you got to play it a 4th time, and there's the back and forth of I don't want to play it, it's causing too much danger, you have to play it, Michael, just goes on forever. Like, it just keeps going on and on. Like, I was struggling to pay attention. I kept tuning out, and this movie only goes on for like 96 minutes, but by gosh, because the characters are so flat and that whole back and forth, it just seems to drag on and on. The best part of the movie is when Michael videotapes himself playing the video game, and when he plays back the video, he clearly sees himself get up and leave the couch. And it felt like Michael had to question maybe there is something wrong with him and it's not the video game. There are some moments where Eddie Furlong is really engaging, but then there are other moments where I felt like I was just seeing the same facial expressions over and over again, and the romance was really flimsy. It barely hangs on, yet it's treated as the climactic moment of the movie. I do find it interesting, the 90s projection of the youth and how they're dealing with all this violence and technology. Like, you got to remember, in the 90s, this was the coming of the internet, like the dawn of the internet. Video games were coming into maturity. There were so many music videos there, and people were questioning what was this going to do to the youth, and growing up with all this immediate access to all kinds of media. So that's embedded all throughout Brainscan. And I do find it really interesting, the character of the trickster and what he embodies and everything like that. But I was so bored in this movie. I kept tuning in and out. I cannot believe this movie was made by the same writer of Seven and the director of Rolling Thunder. So I would give this a miss, guys. I didn't enjoy this at all.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.